I've had the opportunity to live and work in many different countries. The more I get to know other cultures and people, the more I realize we are all the same. Deep down, we all want to feel like life and work have purpose. We want to be good at something that creates value for others, and we all want to have control or responsibility over our lives. The research is pretty clear that these three motivators of purpose, mastery, and responsibility encourage greater employee performance than any other type of reward or punishment. However, this is not consistent across all cultures. Results may vary. In this video, we'll show how encouraging mastery, responsibility, and purpose among employees should be approached differently in different countries. Research shows that mastery is universally accepted across all cultures. This is because learning and getting better is inherently human. It's ingrained in our genetic makeup. Moreover, people from all cultures believe receiving constructive feedback is a way to get better. However, how people accept and deliver feedback across cultures differs dramatically, and getting it wrong can demoralize an entire team. The difference is found in how direct or indirect a culture is. In more direct cultures, feedback can be delivered straight and to the point. If it isn't, you may confuse the receiver. For example, Israel tends to be a very direct culture. If you focus on how well an Israeli is doing and slip a small critique in at the end, they will miss the criticism entirely because it wasn't your focus. To Israelis, negative feedback should be frank, blunt, honest, and never softened by positives. Other cultures that appreciate direct feedback include Russia, the Netherlands, France, Germany, Denmark, and Australia. Indirect cultures, like Japan, prefer an accordingly indirect approach. You should provide negative feedback in a subtle or diplomatic way in these cultures. If you experience a problem with a colleague, you might decide to address the problem in a team meeting as a team problem. Your Japanese colleague will recognize his part in the problem and understand that the feedback applies to him. If you choose to address the problem directly, it is essential to do so only in private. In contrast, a person from a more direct culture may be open to receiving the feedback in a team meeting. Other indirect cultures include Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Korea, Ghana, India, China, and Mexico. Cultures around the middle of direct and indirect include the US, UK, Brazil, Canada, and Argentina. In these cultures, read your environment and respond in whatever way best matches your intended recipient. Taking pains to give feedback in a culturally appropriate manner will not only improve your relationships with coworkers, but it will also allow you to help your coworkers become masters, massively boost their motivation, and, you guessed it, drive greater performance. While greater responsibility will always increase motivation, you'll want to change the way you empower team members based on how individualistic or collectivistic their cultures are. Some cultures, like the United States, Australia, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Hungary, are considered highly individualistic. This means that people in these countries tend to stress individual goals and individual rights. It is important to empower individuals in these cultures and give them more decision-making autonomy. For example, shortly after moving to South Korea to work for a large Korean company, I felt stifled by my boss who imposed multiple group goals on me. As an American, I felt that there was little room for me to set and achieve individual goals. This led to a series of difficult conversations with my Korean boss. Once my boss identified that I was concerned about my individual development, he provided opportunities for me to set and achieve personal goals that aligned with the organization's interests. I also recognized that I needed to adapt to the local culture and accomplish team goals with my coworkers. This mutually beneficial compromise not only helped the company, but also empowered me and kept me motivated. Countries like Korea stress group over individual goals and focus on what is best for the collective. Other more collectivistic countries include Japan, India, Indonesia, Portugal, Mexico, and Greece. Empowering individuals to make decisions about their own work may not achieve optimum results in these cultures unless, like my example in Korea, a particular employee comes from an individualistic culture. Instead of striving for autonomy or independence, individuals from collectivist cultures may be more interested in pursuing the goals and expectations of their social in-groups. While these individuals are still interested in controlling their external environment, they are more interested in doing so as a collective. This means that the total level of autonomy needed for someone in Japan is likely to be less than the autonomy needed for someone in the US. To increase responsibility in collectivist cultures, consider assigning group projects or asking teams to work together to take responsibility for a particular project. My boss in Korea, for example, assigned me group projects because, in that culture, group projects are the most successful way to motivate employees. Had I been in a leadership position, I would have needed to assign group projects to those under me, not the individual projects that were comfortable for me. Research shows that people, regardless of their culture, are motivated by purpose in their work. Cultures can generally be divided into two categories: those who see purpose as the most important motivator, and those who see it as the least of the three. The differentiating factor between these two subsets is actually the prevailing business model of a particular culture. Does it prize flexibility or stability? Let me explain. Businesses in the US are gravitating toward flexible business models. They prize dynamic individuals who adapt quickly to a rapidly changing workplace. This is not only true in the US, but in countries like Canada, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Because the cultures of these countries tend to prefer flexibility over stability, companies tend to value purpose. Why? Having a clear purpose allows an organization to make rapid changes while maintaining its core values. A strong sense of purpose allows employees to adapt to changes within the organization and remain focused on organizational objectives. Leaders in these cultures need to spend sufficient time helping coworkers stay moored to the company purpose. This might take place in monthly interviews, periodic informal chats, or even motivational posters hung strategically throughout the office. Other cultures that may emphasize consistency and stability include Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait, and Eastern European countries like Hungary, Poland, Romania, Ukraine, and Russia. These cultures appreciate consistency and stability and consider an overemphasis on an organization's purpose not as important. Consistency also ensures that a company's purpose does not need to be discussed as frequently. Large changes in an organization tend to be less frequent, so employees focus more on day-to-day tasks than on distant purposes. For example, the purpose of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Abu Dhabi in the UAE is to maintain and invest the country's wealth. To maintain and grow wealth, the company operates in calculated and well-researched investments. Employees tend to appreciate this approach and, as a result, the organization's purpose is well known and does not need to be re-emphasized on a continual basis. To recap, mastery is important everywhere, but how you help your teammates achieve mastery can make or break you. In direct countries, give direct feedback. Say it straight. In indirect countries, find indirect ways to present criticisms and never state them in public. Increasing responsibility depends on how individualistic or collectivist a culture is. People from individualistic cultures love individual responsibility. Think personal projects and individual goals. People from collectivist cultures prefer to increase group responsibility. Think team projects and group goals. To maximize a sense of purpose, remember that cultures with high levels of organizational volatility require emphasizing the company's purpose so workers know that the purpose of the organization remains the same even as things change. In cultures where organizational stability is more valued, less time and effort is needed to talk about the organization's purpose.